Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's two Monday night games in the NFL and look ahead to the game today between the Ravens and the Cowboys. Go over the college basketball games from last night and look ahead to today's games. A couple MLB trades I have to discuss. The latest with the NHL and chances it returns. And my best bet of the day. All right, we'll start in the NFL, obviously, two Monday night games. And the first one was really fun and entertaining as Washington came out on top by a score of 23-17 to hand the Steelers their first loss of the season. Washington is 5-7. Pittsburgh is 11-1. Alex Smith, 31-46, 296 yards and a touchdown. Ben Roethlisberger, 33-53, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. To me, this game turned at the very, very end of the first half when there was a no call and Alex Smith was sort of complaining and there was a stoppage in the clock because there was a flag thrown and it turned out that there was no penalty. Alex Smith complains and then Washington kicks a field goal right before halftime to make it 14-3. To me, that was the turning point of the game. Because if Washington misses that field goal, I don't know if they come back and win this game, let alone if that field goal doesn't happen, meaning that no call. I wonder if the Steelers are still undefeated today. But yeah, give Washington credit for pulling this out to even up the NFC East with the Giants at 5-7. And then the Bills over the 49ers, 34-24. The Bills are 9-3. San Francisco is 5-7. Josh Allen was tremendous, 32 of 40, 375 yards and 4 touchdowns. Nick Mullins, 26 of 39, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. As my best bet of Bills +1 cashes in, frankly, easily, as I thought it would. All right, tonight we have a game. 8 o'clock on Fox. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews on the call. Cowboys, Ravens. A big game for sure for both teams. The Ravens obviously needed to get back in the AFC mix. The Cowboys obviously needed to get within a game of Washington and the Giants of the NFC East. I project the Ravens as 7-point favorites in a total of 48.5. Meanwhile, the Ravens are giving only 7.5 and the total 45.5. So the line went down from 8.5 to 7.5 yesterday. My only play here has to be over 45.5. The case is that the Ravens offense looks competent for the first time in a long time. And Andy Dalton and the Cowboys are able to put some points up on the board as well. 26-20 Ravens victory does it for me. 27-19 could do it as well. So I'm going to call for 27-19 as my final score prediction for this game. Because then it would go over by a point. So give me over 45.5 for my pick for this game. And I think the Ravens will find a way to win this ball game. So give me the Ravens to win straight up. But my play for this is over 45.5. Now we'll move on to college basketball. We'll look back at the results from yesterday and look ahead to today's slate of games. Yesterday was a small slate. Number 19, Richmond over Wofford, 77-72. Richmond 3-0, Wofford 2-1. UMBC over George Washington, 92-81. UMBC 2-1, George Washington 1-3. Hartford over Fairfield, 67-54. Hartford 3-2, Fairfield 0-4. East Carolina over UNC Wilmington, 88-78 in overtime. ECU 4-0, UNC Wilmington 2-2. Coastal Carolina over NC Central, 78-71. Coastal's 3-0, NC Central 1-2. Charlotte over South Carolina State, 78-40. Charlotte 1-2, South Carolina State 0-5. Nevada over William Jessup, 86-64. Nevada's 4-1. Oregon over Eastern Washington, 69-52. Oregon 2-1, Eastern Washington 0-3. Western Michigan over Adrian, 62-42. Western Michigan's 1-2. Cal State Bakersfield over Bethesda, 94-43. Cal State Bakersfield is 1-1. FAU over North Florida 79-77. FAU 3-2. North Florida 0-6. The Citadel over Columbia International 96-57. Citadel's 4-0. Norfolk State over Hampton 76-64. Norfolk 3-1. Hampton 1-1. Eastern Kentucky over Morehead State 71-68. Eastern Kentucky 4-1. Morehead 1-4. Chattanooga over Middle Tennessee 80-70. Chattanooga 4-0. Middle Tennessee 1-3. Southeast Missouri State over Lipscomb 82-77. Southeast Missouri State 2-1. Lipscomb 1-4. Bradley over Lewis 95-62. Bradley's 4-2. Santa Barbara over Loyola Marymount 69-58. Santa Barbara 3-0. Marymount 2-3. And Arizona over Northern Arizona 96-53. Arizona 3-0. Northern Arizona is 0-1. All right, we'll look ahead to today's slate now, which is much busier than yesterday, and there's a couple marquee games on the schedule, obviously, with the Big Ten ACC Challenge upon us. All right. Cal State Northridge, Fresno State postponed. 2:30, Florida National New Orleans, we can skip. 3 o'clock, Morgan State and Iona. I project Iona by 1.5. Meanwhile, ESPN has it at 8.5 and FanDuel has it at 9.5. I am going to take Morgan State plus the 9.5 at minus 118. I don't think Rick Pitino's team's any good. I think they'll probably win this game, but they shouldn't be giving 9.5 here. Alrighty, 4 o'clock, Lincoln, Pennsylvania, and LaSalle, we can skip. Delaware, UMBC. I project UMBC by 2.5. UMBC is giving 4.5. I'm taking Delaware plus the 4.5 at minus 115 here. UC Davis, Cal Baptist canceled. 5 o'clock, ESPN, great game. Big East, Big 12 battle. Number 8, Creighton. Number 5, Kansas. I project the Jayhawks to be favored by 2 here. They're giving 3.5. So 1.5 point value of Creighton. I'm going to take the Blue Jays getting the 3.5. I think that they'll hang around here, potentially win the game outright. They are plus 142 on the money line. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. There's a lot of talents on both ends, and I think that Marquette could very well have the best player on the court in this game. So give me Marquette getting 3.5. Worst case scenario, they lose by 3. Truman State, Indiana State, we can skip. 5 o'clock, Fox Sports 1, Wagner and Seton Hall. I project Seton Hall by 24. They are giving 21. So 21.5. So I'm laying the 21.5 with Seton Hall. Next up, Stetson in South Florida. Obviously now we're in the 5 o'clock window after that Kansas-Creighton game we talked about. I project Stetson by 0.5. And South Florida's giving a whopping 13.5. So give me Stetson plus 13.5 at minus 104. Plus 980 straight up. So give me Stetson. Moneyline pick of the day. Stetson plus 980 over South Florida. And I'm taking them obviously straight against the spread, with the value at minus 104 at plus 13.5. Greensboro, VMI, we could skip. ACC Big Ten Challenge, 5 o'clock ESPN 2. Purdue against Miami. Great game. I project Miami by 3.5. They're only giving 1.5, so I'm laying the 1.5 with the Hurricanes at home. And there's a ton of value on them at minus 102. And they're only minus 112 to win straight up. 6 o'clock, Colorado at Tennessee. Number 12, Tennessee, making their season debut. SEC Network. I project Tennessee here by 11.5. They're giving 5.5, so I'm going to lay the 5.5 with Tennessee. Juice is on them at minus 102. And obviously now we're in the 6 o'clock window, starting with that Colorado at number 12 Tennessee game. NC A&T in Longwood. I project A&T by 14. And Longwood's actually favored by 1.5. So I'm taking A&T plus the 1.5, minus 115, and they're plus 100 to win the game straight up. So give me NC A&T plus 100 on the money line and plus 1.5 at minus 115. Idaho State and Utah. So Utah making Utah with its second game, as Utah has barely played this year. So I project Utah by 36. Utah is only giving 21.5. So give me Utah minus the 21.5 against Idaho State there. Next up, you got the 7 o'clock. By the way, Law and Howard postponed. Remember the 7 o'clock window. Carver, Charleston, Southern, we could skip. Northern Kentucky against Dayton. I project Dayton in this game as a 11-point favorite. Meanwhile, Dayton is giving 12.5. This is hard. I'm going to take Northern Kentucky plus the 12.5 at minus 118. I don't like going against Dayton, so it's a tough one for me there. Next up, Ball State and Northern Illinois. I project Northern Illinois by 16. And Northern Illinois in the spot is getting 7.5. Oh, wait a minute. Ball State by 16. So, yeah, wrong. I had minus instead of plus. So, yeah, I project Ball State by 16. Meanwhile, they're only giving 7.5. So, give me Ball State minus 7.5 at minus 108. Next up, Rider against St. John's, CBS Sports Network. St. John's, I project as a 27.5 point favorite. They're only giving 19.5, so I'm going to lay the 19.5 with the Red Storm. Kent State and Detroit Mercy. I project Kent State by 4.5. They're only giving 1.5, so give me Kent State minus 1.5 at minus 102. Campbell and Jacksonville, 7 o'clock ESPN Plus. I project Campbell by 7, and Jacksonville's favored by 1.5. So give me Campbell plus the 1.5. They're plus 102 straight up. LSU, Alexandria, and Louisiana, we could skip. All right, so NEC conference play. We have a couple conference games in the NEC tonight. St. Francis, Pennsylvania, and Mount St. Mary's. I project St. Fran, Pennsylvania by 3. And St. Fran, Pennsylvania is actually a 2.5 point underdog. So give me St. Fran, Pennsylvania plus the 2.5 at minus 118. They're plus 116 to win this game straight up. Central Connecticut State and Fairleigh Dickinson. I project Dickinson by 26.5. They're giving 9.5. So give me Fairleigh Dickinson minus the points. I love that pick. Bryant and St. Francis Brooklyn. I project St. Francis Brooklyn by 2.5. Meanwhile, Bryant's favored by 2.5, so I'm giving St. Francis Brooklyn getting the 2.5, minus 108, and they're plus 126 to win the game straight up. All right, next up, Montana and Georgia. I project Georgia as a 6.5 point favorite. Meanwhile, Georgia is only giving 9.5. Give me Montana plus the 9.5 at minus 102. William Carey, South Alabama, we can skip. Coppin State, Georgetown, Fox Sports 1. I project Georgetown by 19.5. Meanwhile, Georgetown's giving 18.5. So give me Georgetown minus 18.5, although it's only 1 point of value. East Tennessee State against UNC Asheville. I project East Tennessee State by 2. East Tennessee State's only giving 1.5. So a half point off. I'm going to switch over to the total for this game and go over 137.5. Boston College, Minnesota, ACC Big Ten Challenge on ESPNU. I project Minnesota by 10.5. Meanwhile, Minnesota is giving 7.5. So give me Minnesota minus 7.5, even though the juice is on them, at minus 114. A great game on ESPN, 7:30. Number 16, North Carolina at number 3, Iowa. I project Iowa as a 4-point favorite. Meanwhile, Iowa is giving 3.5 according to FanDuel. Oof, this is so tough. It's a half-point off, but I love this Iowa team. I love Luka Garza. This might be my lone exception to lay points with a half-point difference. I'm going to do it. It's the Luka Garza factor. I'm laying the 3.5 with Iowa, minus 108. I was hoping Iowa would be like a short favorite, not 4 or 3.5. I wish I had more value on Iowa, but I just have this gut feeling that Iowa could win this game by double digits. So give me Iowa minus 3.5 and minus 108 against the Tar Heels of North Carolina. Ohio State against Notre Dame on ESPN2. Number 22, Ohio State. I project as a whopping 13-point favorite. Meanwhile, they're only giving 5.5, so I'm going to lay the 5.5 with Ohio State against Notre Dame at minus 104. Notre Dame's just not good this year. Next up, you got Tennessee State and Belmont. I project Belmont by 13.5. They're giving 14.5, so 1 point off of value. I'm going to take over 147.5 instead of taking Tennessee State plus the points at minus 115. I just think that this is a high-scoring game. Fort Hays State and Kansas State we can skip. Now we're in the 8 o'clock window. Next up, Central Arkansas against St. Louis. I project St. Louis by 18.5. Meanwhile, St. Louis is giving 21.5. Values on Central Arkansas here plus the 21.5. I don't like the pick, but I have to do it. You got to do what you got to do sometimes. So Central Arkansas plus the 21.5 against St. Louis. Keep that a little closer. Mississippi Valley State against Memphis. They took it off on FanDuel amazingly. I project Memphis by 46.5. Meanwhile, Memphis is giving 43.5. So I'm going to lay the 43.5 of Memphis. I have 3 points of value there. Oral Roberts, Oklahoma State. I project Oklahoma State by 24. Oklahoma State is giving 15.5. So I'm going to lay the 15.5 with Oklahoma State, even though the juice is on it at minus 118. Austin Peay, Murray State at 8:30. I project Murray State by 1.5. Murray State's giving 3.5. I'm taking Austin Peay plus the 3.5. Juices on Murray State at minus 118. So I'm taking the plus 3.5 with Austin Peay at minus 104. All right, 9 o'clock, ESPNU ACC Big Ten Challenge. Penn State against number 15, Virginia Tech. It's amazing that Virginia Tech's number 15 in the country. That's what happens when you beat Villanova. I project in this game, team that I have projected as a half-point favorite in the spot, Virginia Tech. I wrote down plus instead of minus, so I had to correct myself there. So I project Virginia Tech by a half. Virginia Tech's laying 5.5. So they have that number, the shiny number by their name. I'm taking Penn State plus the 5.5 at minus 118. No, I don't know if they'll win the game outright or not, but I think this game will be close. They're plus 190 to win straight up. So I'm taking Penn State plus the 5.5 against Virginia Tech. Next up, Jackson State and Mississippi State on the SEC Network. I project Mississippi State by 10.5. They're giving 16.5. So I'm taking Jackson State plus the 16.5 in their season debut at minus 105. Green Bay Marquette, 9 o'clock, Fox Sports 1. I project Marquette by 38. They're giving 20.5. So I'm laying the 20.5 with Marquette at minus 112. Illinois against Duke. What a great game. I project Duke by 1.5. They're giving 3.5. So I'm going to take Illinois plus the 3 and a hook. Illinois has a ton of talent. I think they have an outside shot at winning this game outright. They're plus 142 to win this game straight up. So give me Illinois plus the 3.5 to keep this game relatively close. And I think this could be a breakthrough win for the Illinois program under Brad Underwood. They have a golden opportunity because this is not Duke of old. So I'm taking Illinois plus the 3.5. Do I think they'll win the game outright? No, not necessarily, but I'm going to certainly take them plus 3.5 because my numbers say to do so because I have a 2-point difference. 9:30 ESPN2, Syracuse against Rutgers. And by the way, Tarleton, number 1, Gonzaga, and Nichols, number 2, Baylor, both canceled. We talked about Illinois Duke just now. All right, so another ACC Big Ten Challenge game. I project Rutgers as a 2-point favorite. They're giving 4. I hate picking on Syracuse, but I have to pick Syracuse plus the 4 here. I hate it. I hate it with every bit of my bone. I'm taking Syracuse plus the 4. No, they won't win the game outright. I just think that this game could be a little closer. So give me Syracuse plus the 4 to keep this relatively close against Rutgers. All right, 10 o'clock, Pac-12 Network, UC Irvine against USC. I project the Trojans by 7. Trojans are giving 7.5. I'm taking UC Irvine plus the 10.5. They're the Big West favorites. I think that they'll keep this game relatively close. So give me UC Irvine plus 10.5 against USC. UTEP and St. Mary's. I project St. Mary's by 29.5. They're giving 12.5, so give me St. Mary's minus the 12.5. Juice is on them, though, at minus 112. And we can skip Northwest Washington and Portland State. So there you have it for college basketball for the day. All right, now I want to discuss some trades that happened in Major League Baseball yesterday. The first one that happened was a little unexpected. Raciel Iglesias was traded from the Cincinnati Reds to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim for Noe Ramirez and a player to be named later. This is a fantastic trade for the Angels. They get themselves a proven closer in Raciel Iglesias, who has had some great moments over the last couple of years. He reminds me a ton of Aroldis Chapman from when Aroldis Chapman was first breaking through in the league. So, yeah, the Angels get a really, really good pitcher that can come in and close games out. So, Mike Trout's probably gushing about this right now. So, it's a great trade for Joe Maddon. He has himself a closer. So, that team gets better. Meanwhile, for the Reds, it looks like that they're shedding some payroll here. And after going for it last year, it looks like that they're going the opposite direction, trying to rebuild. So maybe they're the 2015 Padres and they blow it up because you're hearing rumors about Sonny Gray. Trevor Bauer's leaving in free agency. They still got Nick Castellanos and Mike Moustakas, but you never know. They could be had for a trade. I think anybody's available on the Reds, personally. Maybe with the exception of Luis Castillo. So, yeah, crazy trade. Noe Ramirez is a nice pitcher, but he's not Raciel Iglesias. I'm sorry. I think this is a slam dunk for the Angels. And now, will the Angels follow it up with another win now move? And then the other trade they made was for Jose Iglesias of the Orioles. So they got themselves a veteran guy that has an offensive game now all of a sudden. So the Angels made 2 solid trades in the offseason. I like this one for Iglesias a lot better, though, because Iglesias, obviously, I think is a more impactful player than Iglesias. Because Iglesias, although an improved offensive player, but he still has a chance of regression. And I really like Iglesias, too. So, I'm sorry, they're both Iglesias, Jose Iglesias and Raciel Iglesias. I like Raciel Iglesias a lot. So, great trade for LA and for the Reds, as I mentioned. They could very well be blowing it up a la 2015 Padres. Like, they team that went for it and then decide a year later, you know what, let's take the L. Even though we made the playoffs and a expanded playoff season because of COVID-19. What were we really? We're losing Trevor Bauer anyway. So, yeah, Reds potentially blowing it up, I think, is a storyline to follow in the next couple days here at the virtual winter meeting. And then the trade that happened last night, Lance Lynn was traded from the Texas Rangers the Chicago White Sox for Dane Dunning and another prospect. Amazing trade for Lance Lynn and for the White Sox. The White Sox all of a sudden have a big four in their rotation of Lucas Giolito, Dallas Keuchel, Lance Lynn, and Michael Kopech. And then Dylan Cease had a somewhat of a breakthrough year last year too. Dane Dunning's an intriguing prospect. I think that's a good prospect to get back for Lance Lynn. Dunning can potentially have a change of scenery with Texas and rejuvenate himself a little bit. Could have the Rangers done better in this trade? If the Yankees were willing to put Clint Frazier on the table, you could talk me into a yes for that, but I don't think he is someone that the Yankees would want to trade because he's someone that had a great year last year and is an improved player and is going to be their starting left fielder in 2021. So Dane Dunning, you can make a case, is the best they could have done in that deal. And then they get another prospect back in Texas. It was I'm trying to think of the pitcher's name. It's a young left-hander. Oh, Avery Williams is the other pitcher. 6th-round pick in 2019 going from Chicago to Texas in that deal. So yeah, great trade for the White Sox. I really think the White Sox have a shot to be playing in the Fall Classic in 2021 because they broke through last year. They have a new manager in Tony La Russa who I think is in a good situation with all this talent. They pull off this Lance Lynn trade, and that's another sneaky storyline. Lance Lynn obviously pitched for La Russa with the Cardinals and on that World Series championship team back in 2011, so they have the familiarity factor there. So Lance Lynn to the White Sox made all the sense in the world. So White Sox have a great big five in their rotation. I just think that they need to make a couple bullpen moves, and then you're talking yourselves into a real contender. And then maybe they go out and sign one guy, maybe say a Michael Brantley. But wow, what a great trade for the Chicago White Sox. And in Texas, do they blow it up? I mean, they trade Lance Lynn now. They traded Todd Frazier in the summer. They traded Mike Minor in the summer. So it looks like that Texas could very well be blowing it up as well. After years of me thinking that that they were potentially going to be a big move waiting to happen because of their new stadium. But no, it looks like that they're going in the other direction. Their new general manager. So, yeah, not a bad first day for the virtual winter meetings. So, Liam Hendricks is somebody that he was to go to the White Sox. Oh boy, him, Michael Brantley, and obviously Lynn. That would be a tremendous offseason for the White Sox, and I think would put the driver's seat along with the Rays and the Yankees for the best teams in the American League for 2021. So, what a great trade for Chicago. And by the way, I threw the Yankees in there in the terms of the contender mix, assuming that they'll re-sign DJ LeMahieu. Because if they don't re-sign DJ LeMahieu, they take a step back. I'm sorry. That's just facts. Because DJ LeMahieu is the one player in their lineup that is more of the pure hitter in the lineup that doesn't either strike out or hit a home run like everybody else in their lineup. So, yeah, I think it's important that the Yankees bring him back, and I think they will. A lot of people in the media think that they will. A lot of people in the industry expect DJ LeMahieu to return to the Yankees, but the question is the contract. If they have to overpay to do it, then they have to do it. Just like they did with Garrett Cole. They overpaid for Garrett Cole, but he's worth every penny. DJ LeMahieu is going to be worth every penny for whomever he signs with at the contract he gets. And then Sonny Gray, we talked about him being potentially on the move. And then the other arm potentially is Zach Wheeler, but the Phillies shot down those rumors, even though the Phillies, once upon a time, 5 years ago, shot down Ken Giles trade rumors, and then they'd go ahead the next day and trade him to the Houston Astros. So, you never know with the Phillies. I don't trust that team at all. And the Reds look like they're blowing it up, potentially. The Rangers, I think, could be trading some pieces, too. Blake Snell's another one to watch. You heard his name thrown out in trade rumors. And by the way, if the Rays trade Blake Snell and don't replace him somehow with somebody that is somewhat reliable, then that takes them out of the mix in the American League. I'm sorry, they got to keep Blake Snell, in my opinion, unless you're getting like a marquee pitcher or a marquee bat back. Alrighty, now we'll move on to hockey. There's more rumors coming out. The Deputy Commissioner, Bill Daley, apparently the financial hurdles were cleared and the NHL is aiming for a January 13th start. There's a lot that needs to be done, but there's good news about the financial hurdles being cleared. And now they're planning the season, and they're targeting January 13th as a possible start date. The 13th is a Wednesday, so it's going to be before Martin Luther King Day, which I don't think anybody would have thought that. So we could very well be talking about in 5 weeks from now, 33 days, so 33, 5 times 7 is 36 days from now. Sorry, my math is terrible. So, in 36 days from now, we could very well be talking about the start of the hockey season on the podcast. That is great news. Obviously, we're going to get big into hockey, predictions. We'll go over the moves everybody made in the offseason. And obviously, there's going to be a schedule that comes out, which we will get into at some point, in which all these teams will debut, and some of these rookies like Alexis Lafreniere with the Rangers and all that jazz. So it's going to be fun. And any other hockey news, obviously, we will be talking about it. And Bill Daley made a quote in this Pierre LeBrun piece as well, basically saying that there's a lot of work to be done. And so here we go. We're moving forward with the process of working through all the issues that need to be addressed and agreed to, and that are obviously unique to play a season during a pandemic. And then a league source said that there's still a lot to get done, which there is. So yeah, hockey, that's pretty big that the financial hurdles are out of the way, and now they're banking on planning the season. And like I said, we'll get into it once the schedule comes out. We'll do a season's predictions podcast, obviously. Maybe I'll get Derek on to recap the offseason a little bit. And maybe our friend John Butchercross, who has not been on in a long, long time. Well, I haven't had any guests on a long time because my device that I use to record the podcast with the guests has not been working. So hopefully we'll get that to work eventually so we can have guests on the show again. All right. Best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. I have some intriguing options here for myself. I'm going to do it in college basketball because I don't love my over pick for the Ravens-Cowboys game, and I'm only a half point off with my projection. So the pick here today is going to be, let's go with Utah minus the 22.5 against Idaho State. I think Utah's going to blow them out. Idaho State stinks. So give me Utah minus the 22.5 against Idaho State. So that's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping college basketball and looking ahead to tomorrow. We'll recap the Ravens-Cowboys game. We'll do NFL power rankings tomorrow since we have not done them in a long time. And then after tonight's game, we'll be through 3/4 of the season. We'll talk about potentially awards and whatnot. And the latest with MLB trades and anything related to hockey coming back. We'll have it for you on the podcast. Oh, and we'll preview tomorrow night's episode of The Masked Singer, even though it's like a holiday episode. So maybe we'll preview it a little bit. All right, hope you guys have a great day, everyone.